This is an exclusive presentation from Federated Media. Unholstered.
We are back. Happy New Year and welcome on in here to Unholstered. My name is Kayla Blakesley and I'm just one of your hosts.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sophia Rosales-Gatina. I am a captain with the Fort Wayne Police Department, and welcome back to Unholstered in 2024. So Happy New Year.
Can you believe it? Happy New Year. If this is your first time ever tuning in, we've been here for well over 2 years, but if this is your first time tuning in, maybe for the new year, this is your show all about local media, which is me, teaming up with local law enforcement, which obviously is Sophia, to share and tell all of the stories that don't get told about not even just law enforcement, just first responders really in general.
Yeah,
Policing in general. And speaking of, I know it's past, but happy Law Enforcement Day, Sophia.
Thanks.
About a week and a half ago now, I think. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, who knows?
I didn't see you in person. I did make a Facebook post.
You did. I did see it.
I should have texted you had I been, more proper about it. But truly to you, to every sergeant, detective, captain, what have you, I just don't think there are really enough words to express our appreciation for all of you who I always say, you guys go out every single day, put your lives on the line for communities all across the country. I mean, I'm just super thankful for everything you do for our community. So from me to you publicly now, in person, thank you for everything that you do for our community.
It's my pleasure. I couldn't think of anything I'd want to do right now or in the last 29 years. So,
does the Fort Wayne Police Department do anything on lawn?
No.
Isn't that kind of weird because it's your own day? I didn't know if there's
we don't do anything.
Blue cupcakes that someone brings in or something.
I mean, I don't even know if someone brought stuff in. I know we got a lot of accolades on Facebook and things like that.
That'd be a lot of cupcakes.
Yeah, that would be a lot of cupcakes.
Nearly 500 cupcakes.
Yeah, 500 cupcakes. But I think it's just nice to acknowledge the people doing the work. I didn't even know it was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. I try to keep up on that stuff. I've just been busy with some other things going on. But it's hard for me to keep up with these days because there seems like there's a day for everything.
There is. Well, the other day was gluten-free day. I'm like, okay, we're not celebrating that one.
No.
It is hard to keep up with all of them. But a Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, obviously an important day. So to all of our police officers out there, we appreciate every single one of you. We pray for all of you.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine. So
yeah.
I'm glad that y'all are doing it and not me. Sophia, on another note, something new for 2024. I mean, we learned, the news kind of broke here on Unholstered, that former police chief Steve Reed decided to retire here as kicking off 2024. And we now have a new police chief.
We do. New police chief is Scott Caudill. He is a 29-year veteran on the Fort Wayne Police Department. And actually, fun fact, Scott and I went through the academy together, so I've known him his entire career. And he's a good guy, so I look forward to his leadership and seeing what his vision is. We haven't really sat down and talked yet about what that is, but he's just been very busy with the new appointment and everything, and he'll continue to have these appointments. But we will have him on. I already, literally when I heard that I was going to be him officially, I texted him right away.
Weaseled your way in there.
Hey, I said, you have to come on Unholstered and we'll talk about your leadership, your vision, what you see for the Fort Wayne Police Department in the future. So
I'm excited because I don't really know much about him. I've obviously never met him. So I am excited to hear his vision for 2024. And almost kind of how it compares to Chief Reed's. We had him on and then boom, this big bombshell of he's retiring. So it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts, especially serving on the force for nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
And you going your whole policing career with him. I think that is a great fact.
I know everything about him. All the dirty secrets.
Could be good or bad. Maybe we could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
But no, moving on today, I do want to get into a topic that honestly we've heard from listeners more than once now, and it just kind of getting pushed to the side because other things were popping up. But it became quite a big headline over the holidays, and that is swatting.
Yeah.
First and foremost, Sophia, for folks listening, maybe they've never heard of swatting. I mean, to be honest, this is a relatively new term for me as well, so you're going to be carrying the majority of this episode.
Okay.
What is swatting?
So swatting basically is it's been around for a while now, but basically what it is if someone creates a fake call into 911 with most of the time a grandiose claim like a shooting or a hostage taking, a kidnapping, something like that tries to elicit a large police response, but especially a SWAT response. So over the holidays, there were several lawmakers throughout the country that were swatted. And it became very big in the headlines between like Thanksgiving and the New Year. So
why?
I don't know why. I think people just get angry, especially at lawmakers. They're such an easy target because they do things that we don't always agree with, we don't always align with, and then I think, I'm going to get them back, so let me create this fake call. So basically, what happened like over the holidays is they would call in the reports of shooting, and then I've taken someone hostage, but they'd give the address of a lawmaker. And luckily, the call takers, when they ran these addresses, found that they were the lawmakers. Now, normally those people come with their own security details, at least one or two people, especially the higher profile ones. So they were able to make contact with them, and then they just went out and checked. I think it was Senator Rick Scott in Florida. He had one. He wasn't even home.
I saw Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She made some headlines. I think she said she had it happen like 8 times.
Yeah, she has over the course of the last year. I think she's been swatted several times, and then her daughters have also been swatted.
Oh no!
Yeah, so her daughters' homes have also been swatted, according to her. So it's become very prevalent. And I think over the holiday, I think Congressman Williams out of New York, he was swatted. Lieutenant Governor of Georgia was targeted. Like you said, Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Senator Rick Scott, and Boston Mayor Wu were also swatted all over like the Christmas holiday season.
So let me just make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So let's say someone, and not even in the case of a lawmaker, really technically anyone could swat anyone.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And they have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to get to that too.
Yes.
But so your intention is, I'm just going to use you and I as an example. Okay. I call 911. I say, Sophia at such and such address has taken a hostage. She's got a gun. And the idea here is to have this full police presence at your home.
Yes.
This full SWAT call out at your home.
Yes.
Why? Just to create havoc? I mean, because clearly police they're going to get there. Y'all are going to get there and realize, okay, this is a big nothing burglar.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
So there have been instances where it has not turned out well for the homeowner. Like in Wichita, Kansas in 2017, officers actually shot and killed a homeowner.
No, that was
on a swatting incident. Yes. It was basically the caller had originally called in saying there was someone that had taken someone hostage. He had shot someone, taken someone hostage, I believe. And so police initially responded. Well, if you're responding and as the police, people are uncooperative or they're just doing things that they not following direction or making, furtive movements, those kinds of things, it could end up very bad because you're on there unlimited information. But anyway, he was shot and killed by officers. And there was actually someone that was charged and arrested, Tyler Burris out of California. He pled guilty to 51 charges.
Whoa.
Stemming from that hoax call. Great, but the man's still dead.
Yeah.
And
the man didn't actually do anything.
And he didn't do anything.
He was. So, okay,
No.
I got so many questions now.
Okay.
First and foremost, let's say you're a victim of swatting. Let's say you're Marjorie Taylor Greene or just Joe Schmo down the street. What do you do? All of a sudden, SWAT is showing up at your house.
Follow directions. Whatever the officers are telling you to do, just do it. If they're asking you to exit the house with your hands up, just do it. If you have a question, that these police are outside, just call 911 and like, what's going on? I'm out in my house. There's a bunch of cops outside. They'll probably tell you, and sir, you need to just exit the home with your hands up and just do that.
So dispatch will know that if in that situation and you call 911 and you say that, they will be able to.
Yeah, because they know
that.
where we're at. They know what's going on. They know the call that has come in. They probably took the call, the hoax call. And now I've got the person on the line saying, I don't know what's going on. People are outside my house. And they will have you exit your house. And you know what? Will allow you to have your cell phone in your hand. Just put your cell phone up to your ear. You can raise your other hand and just tell them, hey, I'm on the cell phone. I'm going to bring that out because I don't know what's going on. And we've done that plenty of times with like hostage negotiation situations. We'll allow someone to keep a cell phone in their hands.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't even want to bring that out. I'd be like, I don't want you to think it's a gun.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either. That's just me. But some people are more comfortable with that cell phone in their hand, and that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as they're coming outside and they're just obeying the directions, we'll get it sorted out. We really will. But we're operating on limited information, and sometimes this is all we have when we have these kind of calls too. So you just never know. So just follow the direction of any officer that's giving you lawful orders. And at that point, for us, it is a lawful order, because we don't know what's going on. We just want to figure out what's going on, and we will get you up and going and back to your safety, and we'll write reports, and we may even start investigating these if we start seeing these. We have had these in the past here in Fort Wayne.
Well, that's going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
Does this happen a lot here in our neck of the woods?
I wouldn't say a lot, but it does happen.
Is it normally to high-profile people, or is it to
No.
like a retribution kind of thing?
It is that. Usually it's someone mad at someone else, so I'm going to call and say this. We used to have someone who wasn't mentally well that would had a real fascination with police officers that would make these calls a lot. There's a shooting here, there's a shooting there, and then you'd elicit that police response. Well, they just like to see all the lights and sirens coming, and
Interesting.
but it can cause a bunch of issues because we're running lights and sirens needlessly, and accidents can happen and things like that, traffic accidents and things like that.
So I think the next big question here is for the person who's calling in this fake call that leads to a swatting incident. I mean, what happens to them? Are there charges for doing this?
There can be, depending on what they're saying, what's going on, if something happened during that incident. So there can be several charges that can be brought about. Abuse of 911 is one of them. That is actually a law for people who call 911 and make fake calls. False reporting is another one you could get charged with. These are all like misdemeanors, though. And
I feel like it should be more severe than that.
And it is. And some states are starting to take this more seriously because they're seeing that increase. So Georgia and Virginia just increased those charges to felonies for hoax calls like that. And other states are looking to follow suit.
So it's
has potential to be a felony in states. They're like literally they're on the docket for votes.
Oh, wow. What about Indiana?
States.
Do you know where we're at?
I don't know where we're at on that.
I'll have to find that out because now I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do we know with any of these high-profile lawmakers, specifically over the holidays, did any of them end in some form of violence or injury, or do we know if anything like that occurred?
No, nothing like that. I think most of these were high-profile enough that if they did not have security, that they could have made a quick phone call and said everything was fine, but they still send officers just to check.
Yeah.
Those were okay. The less profile ones, some of them weren't home. I think in another one, they were making Christmas cookies, and then they just gave all the officers the Christmas cookies when they left, after everything was kind of walked through and stuff. But they knew they were high profile enough. These addresses came back as representative housing, so they were able to make phone calls and find out what was going on.
What do you think? Should it be a felony charge? I mean, if you're like full on calling out and the full SWAT is showing up, you've been accused of shooting someone or taking somebody hostage, and you've got this full police force showing up at your front door. Do you think it should be a felony?
I think the way we do it here, we would not show up on a full SWAT call out for just an initial call like that. We'd have to have more information to know an actual crime has occurred. So when we have had these swatting incidents, we've gone out, we've assessed the situation with our first line road officers and our first line supervisors. They do a really good job of assessing that. And mind you, all of our teams are officers. So our SWAT teams are officers on the street. So they can assess, they can figure out what's going on. Couple that with negotiators that are also working the street, ASU working the street. So we have all these people who are frontline officers who can assess situations. They're really good at making those determinations about, does this need to go to a full call out? We have not had a swatting incident that has done that.
Oh.
So we've taken care of everything on the front line with the frontline officers. So
what I'm hearing you say is maybe case by case?
Case by case. It would depend on what was said, what they're claiming, what we can find out. I think what we have now is accurate, not accurate, but appropriate.
Yeah.
In terms of being misdemeanors for false reporting and stuff like that. But they're also that, and then it also takes time to do because they use these apps to spoof numbers and stuff. So they're not really calling from their own phone number. They're calling from a spoofed number from the web.
So it's a lot to track down the
It would be,
hoax
yeah.
caller,
Not to say
then.
we can't do it, because we certainly can. But it would take a lot of time. And are we going to do that for a misdemeanor? But maybe not. It would depend on the severity of the issue. Obviously, if it turned into some kind of police action shooting or a police use of force, then yeah, well, maybe we probably ought to dig deeper than that.
Or a car crash maybe on the way there, or a pedestrian hit or something like that.
Yeah, so, it would be a case-by-case basis.
What kind of penalties associated with, let's say you are charged with abuse of 911. You say it's a misdemeanor. What are we talking about
So
here?
that's less than a year in jail, possibly less than a year in jail. Anything more than that would be a felony, and then a fine.
So what if it was then considered to be a felony?
Depending on the level of felony, it'd be anything over a year.
Over a year, then okay, that's how that works.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's very dangerous, and I can track this back to I think I found the first incident was in 2009.
Okay, good. I was going to ask this. How did this even come to fruition and become a thing?
So when I looked back, the earliest one I could find was in 2009 when a 19-year-old hacker, computer hacker, he apparently was talking to some woman and asked her to have phone sex, and she refused. So he made a call into police claiming that there was a shooting or kidnapping at her place and that she was involved in somehow, some way. So police got there, found out it was a hoax, but they ended up charging him with several charges, and he ended up serving 11 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, because he had hacked into her computer stuff, and it was just it was a big
So he had a
ordeal.
slew of...
Yeah, he had a slew of charges, and it got him 11 years.
So do we know, was the actual SWAT team called out in that 2009 scenario?
They called it a swatting incident,
Okay.
so I'm assuming
that's where the term was born,
probably, yeah. And then there was some issue, there was another incident, and I think where it got, traction was on another incident. It was a few years later, I think in 2013, where a gamer was playing a game and another gamer had called a hoax in on him. Well, police actually busted in the door and kind of raided his house, or went into his house, but it was all live streamed because he was gaming. So that went viral, and I think that's where it started catching on.
Well, okay, so another question then that leads me to, do you think this increase of swatting that we're seeing really over the past couple of years, like I said, it kind of just is relatively new to me, but it does seem to keep popping up, is a lot of that due to social media? Because to some degree, it becomes trendy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, easy to do with technology that's at your fingertips for the spoofing numbers and things like that. I mean, look, we just, was just recently where we had those multiple bomb threats in the schools.
Yeah,
I mean,
less than a
technically
week
that
ago.
could be a swatting incident. You're trying to elicit a police response, to something like that. When that went overall, I think through the whole state of Indiana to the school system.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it was 70 different schools.
Yeah. So technically, I would consider that kind of a swatting incident. You're trying to elicit a police response to something like that. So I think that person, they'll do a deep dive into that one, though, because that was such a headache all around the state. So
And it wasn't just one individual home.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they're probably going to do a deep dive on that, and they'll end up with somebody.
Keep us updated on that one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Do you foresee, I'm looking at the calendar here, we are less than a week away from the Iowa caucuses. This election year is just getting started. Oof. Do you foresee swatting, it happening and occurring more as this election year progresses? I'm looking here over your holiday rap sheet that you brought up for us with all of these high profile lawmakers, and I'm like, wow, that was over the holidays. You think people were, even the criminals, the bad guys, would be with their families and taking a break. But so I don't know, in your professional opinion, do you see this increasing?
Sadly, yes. I just think we've become so divisive, and no one can disagree with us unless I just don't like the way this country's been heading, and that's our own fault. We're allowing people to divide us, and instead of just taking it on a case by case and judging people by who they are, not by their politics or what they believe. Technically, as long as it's not hurting anyone, it's not criminal in nature, things like that. You're free to believe what you want. That's why we live in America. And I think sometimes we get away from that and we become and I think social media is a huge problem because people just say the most worst things on there that you'd never say in public to someone. And I just think it just creates this, I'm just like, everyone has a comment now about everything. You know how many times I scroll by stuff, I'm like, God, I could comment on that, but I'm not going to.
Well, and how empowering is that? I always say that to people. I get critics all the time, but I'm like, Do you know how awesome it is just to keep scrolling instead of saying something unkind or egregious? Like, it's empowering to keep scrolling. I also always say people need to learn how to be okay with not being okay with other people's opinions. Like, it's okay if I don't agree with you, Sophia, and I need to learn to be okay with that, and vice versa. Like, people need to learn to be okay.
Yeah. I'm still a nice person. You're still a good person if we don't agree on some
It's a lost art.
Yeah, and I think, as people just get more and more angry about more and more things that they see or perceived injustices that they have about things, I think this will probably just continue. Yeah,
picking up the phone, making that would never even cross my mind. Have you yourself ever been part of one of these call-outs for a swatting incident in your last, 29
I have not.
years with the force?
No, it just kind of came to us a few years ago. I don't even remember it back in 2009 anywhere. I think we probably started seeing this maybe in 2019.
Okay, so it's not been around too long. No wonder it's just popping up on my radar.
Yeah, and it's not like it's pervasive in our community or anything like that.
Okay, so Sophia, just to kind of sum this all up, really just put a nice bow on it for us. What, at the end of the day, are the true dangers of swatting?
Several. First and foremost, it's just safety for the public, safety for the officer. So like we talked before, there's people that have lost their lives over incidents like this. So it's not really truly a safe thing. Officers are on guard all the time. We'd like to think we're always, attuned to the goings on that are around us and the information that we have. But again, if people aren't compliant in the instructions and they start making furtive movements, we don't know that this is a fake call. I mean, we're only going on limited information, which is what we usually have, on any run. So it's tough enough. And I think sometimes, people do this to actually draw police to see if they'll, respond like this.
Yeah,
to prove a point.
My other concern with this too, speaking of drawing police, is just that we've talked a lot about police ambushes being up, and what a great way to ambush a whole group. Of law enforcement officers.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen ambushes really occur like in domestic situations where, hey, I've shot my wife and things like that. So they draw officers in, and then boom, you just pull up in your car and you're automatically, fired upon.
Have we seen a scenario of swatting being used for that?
We haven't seen swatting. We've actually had domestic situations where officers have been called to, and then things have gone bad from there. Or attempted ambushes. I think we were on top of that one, thankfully, for one of those instances. But, again, it's like even getting there, if it's lights and sirens call, there's traffic accidents that can happen. There's secondary accidents because someone stopped too suddenly. Now someone rammed into the back of them, so there's lots of things that can happen that create real dangers for the community and the officer when these swatting incidences happen. So that would be my first and foremost. Secondly, I would think that the police resources, the amount of resources that we use, I mean, diverting people because these would be priority one calls, diverting people to that and creating this where everyone's at the scene. Well, now it's going to take me a little bit longer to get to this other scene that actually may be a crime and also a priority one. And now everyone's clear over here doing this. Now everyone has to divert, or someone else has to divert over here. So it just take a longer response time. And if it's me on the other end of that response time, I mean, I want them there quicker rather than later.
Yeah, you and me both.
So it's one of those things where police resources plus the amount of money. I mean, if you're actually calling out a SWAT team, a negotiations team, the drone unit, all that stuff that we do together on calls like this of hostage situations, things like that. And that's an enormous amount of money you're having to pay because, you have to pay a call out pay. You have to pay, the actual time that they're there plus, what we call a call out additional fee just to be on call. So it could be a lot of money being called out. And then how long are you there? Are you there trying to make contact? You can't make contact. No one's answering a phone, so, or in this case, like in one of these legislatures, he wasn't even home. So now you got to set up around this house. You're trying to make contact. There's nobody there to make contact with, but we don't know that. We don't know no one's home.
So think about your tax dollars before you place a swatting call.
I mean, you're not going to care about things that kind of go along with this, and we don't ever think about those little nuances, but it's something I think about as, someone in the upper command that has to make those determinations like, yeah, this is a call out. No, it's not a call out. and then you always in the back of your mind, you're like thinking of tax dollars of overtime.
Yeah, because you're thinking safety, resources, money. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into
there's a lot that goes on into the decision making. Not that I would ever not call something out because of overtime. I wouldn't do that. But you really have to assess the situation. But in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, man, this is a lot of overtime. There's a lot of, because it's just
you're thinking cha-ching.
It's the nature and it's the reality of policing.
Yeah.
And no one likes to see, so when you see these big tags on some of these officers at the end of the year, because we just finished up the end of the year, you put out the scale of who made what in the city, and people go in there, oh my God, you cops make so much money. I'm like, I would like to see how many hours are associated with that pay
and what they were called out for.
When you're looking at the high dollar amount that an officer has at the end of the year, because it's public information, what we make, you're looking at that number and you're looking like, my God, they're not underpaid. How many hours did it take that officer to work to reach that level? Because these call out teams are like a lot of work. Drone unit's a lot of work. SWAT's a lot of work. Negotiations is a lot of work. Fatal call-out's a lot of work. They're doing things, and they do these when they get paid overtime. It's because they're on their off time.
Right.
So now they've taken away from their families, taken away from special events, they've taken away from vacations or whatever to serve this community. So you always got to be aware that, when you're looking at that back number, like, oh, wow, they're not underpaid. Well, how many hours does it take to get there? I wish they printed that too with the amount that we make.
And if that's your family, if that's your situation, you best bet you want them there.
Yeah, you do, because they're highly trained. They're good officers. We do a really good job here. And I'm proud of my department. I'm proud of what they do. And, we've had these incidences. We were easily able to recognize what they were, and no incidents occurred further with it. And we just cleared the scene. But, bad things can happen, though.
What a fascinating topic, swatting. Who knew? That's how we kick off 2024. Don't forget, coming up here on Unholstered, we are going to talk with the new police chief. And in the meantime, if you've missed any previous episodes of Unholstered, Sophia and I, we get into everything. You can download, you can hear them all. Anywhere you download a podcast, just search for Unholstered. Your town, your team, your topics. This is Unholstered.
Thanks for listening to Unholstered. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search Unholstered.
Podcasts by Federated Media.